Go. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night, wherever you are in the world, and welcome to our very special edition of the Endurance Chat pre-Le Mans show. My name is Michael Zalavari, also known as Floodman11, and we are finally here. How cool is it to be here for the Centenary edition of the 24 Hours of Le Mans? This is amazing. This is incredible. I can't believe that we've been doing this for 8 years and that people have stuck listening to us for 8 years. We are literally counting down towards the start. On our live stream, you can see the literal counter for before the start of the Le Mans 24 Hours. So that's where we are. We are 1 hour, 29 minutes, and 30 seconds away from the start of the 24 Hours of Le Mans. I'm not the only one here today. I've also got here with me Kris Washer 97 and Lada Safety Car. Hello, Kris. Hello, Lada.
Hello.
Hardly ho, neighborino. Also, Lada's here. Do you guys remember Lada? Is he going to talk? He's not going to talk, apparently. Okay, that's fine. We're off the rails already. Who knew what the rails were? Kris, hi.
Hey, it's the Centenary Flood.
We're
We
here.
already had such a banging day of track action already, Flood. I mean, if you were here early on in the morning, we had Ferrari challenged because we only had like 3 laps of racing and the rest were under safety car after a pretty hard hit.
Huge incident.
Basically a tire went down from one of the Ferraris and went onto one of the basically cut one of the corners before entering Indianapolis, and then just unfortunately collected another car as well, and that pretty much caused everything to be delayed for a bit. And then they only had that one, I believe it was last lap dash.
Yes, which also had the slow zone in place, which caused another
Yep.
accident in that same area.
Yeah.
Because for some reason they didn't realize that the slow zone from Marshall's Post 17 in slow zone 5 meant that there'd be a slow zone at Marshall Post 17 and slow zone 5. Like, who would have thought that? Who could have predicted this, right?
Yeah, you'll have to have those big jobs full, but the good news is we at least had one support race that was good that we can salvage the morning of, and that was the Porsche Carrera Cup France / Scandinavia combined race. And basically, the history just shows that when you have Carrera Cups at Le Mans, they have a spectacular show, and that's what we really got. It was a battle between Dorian Bacalacci, Marvin Klein, and Dylan Pereira. Goretti was in the mix as well. I mean, there was one huge moment where coming into Indianapolis, Goretti was passing for the lead, but then pretty much never really nailed that exit, and he had lost about 3 spots. And it was actually a pretty fantastic race, although the slow zone coming out of Mulsanne, just past Arnage, kind of did ruin things a bit because
Yeah.
normally, especially those Carrera Cup cars, when you come out of Mulsanne, and that stretch into into Indianapolis, they have the draft, and the moves that come out into that scenario it's just amazing to watch. Especially, I believe it was 2017 that Carrera Cup race, which there's like 4 cars battling for the win. That the most I remember, lots of those moves came from in that corner. So, same that there's a slow zone in that scenario, but that was at least a relatively good support race for people who maybe woke up a little bit too early.
Maybe. I've been up since I've been up for what, 12 hours already, 13 hours already. Curse my side of the planet. I wish I was in France. Let's talk a little bit about just quickly before we keep going on. I do want to say, if you have questions for us while we're doing this, chuck it in the podcast discussion or chuck it in the live chat on YouTube. I'm watching both of them. Sling us your questions. I don't care how outlandish it is. If they're good, I'll respond to them. If not, you can get stuffed. Hypercar. Let's talk about Hypercar, because there's been a little bit of rumbling in the Hypercar ranks so far this event. Of course, we didn't really mention the BOP change, the additional weight added to the Toyota, Ferrari, and Cadillac in our preview, but it seems to have leveled the playing field quite a bit. However, the one team who has been the most outspoken about the Hypercar BOP change has been Toyota, because they've been hit the hardest, and now they're not leading and they're not topping every session. And this is weird for Toyota. They've been topping every session for the past 5 years. How terrifying. What are your thoughts on the BOP changes? Has that had too much of a pullback on Toyota, or are they just like just not being used to being top dog and not there anymore?
Yeah, so I remember when they first made these changes about what was it, like a week and 2 weeks ago. I was one of those people where I was kind of a little bit frustrated because the way the things were working was that the BOP was on ACE. This is what the ACO and WEC says. The BOP wasn't going to change until Monza,
Mm.
and what we were seeing is that from I'm gonna say Portimao onwards because that's when the original portion of the BOP has started because they changed from Sebring to Portimao. From Portimao onwards, we've seen improvements from Ferrari. We've seen improvements from Cadillacs, Porsches, and it seems like because it went from winning by laps to winning by seconds.
Mm.
Um, so I was kind of disappointed because it was sort of kind of like a callback to the old LMP1 days where yes, there's BOP included in this, but at least they can still work on their cars, make those changes matter instead of basically not doing anything and just hoping for a BOP break. That's just my personal opinion, but in the end, it doesn't really matter because as long as we get a competitive race, all those worries are just going to go out the window. Um,
And
if Toyota,
it looks like all the
yeah,
cars are competitive. I mean, all the cars that we expect to be competitive are competitive, and the Glickenhaus, Van Wall, and Peugeot are off in the bushes.
which we'll get to Glickenhaus later. But yeah, like I said, if Toyota are still competitive, like if they're still good on race pace, and it's not like they're dropping like a stone, like absolutely no chance on the green, then everything will be fine. I think then that'll be. I think in terms of I know what they're getting at. They want the Centenary to be, competitive. They don't want somebody to run away with it. We'll see. In terms of Glicken, and actually, first, so you said Toyota was a bit miffed on the BOP.
Mm.
From some inner rumblings, like Toyota, like it even went as far as like Toyota was even reconsidering its future within the WEC. They were that mad,
What?
which
What?
I don't know if that was just like I presume me and you, Flood, we all have had moments where we hot in the moment, we said some things that after we cooled down, it's like, oh, why did I say that? That's a kind of a outlandish behavior,
Mm.
But we'll see. But you said Glickenhaus. One thing we kind of know for certain, it's not written in stone, but I think it's pretty much all but confirmed, unless they get like a very, very, really good result, like a win or something. It seems like after Monza, Glickenhaus is done. That's
Done. Where have you heard this
yeah.
from? Are you making stuff up again, Chris?
No, it's really writing on the wall. I mean, because Glickenhaus has said this in multiple interviews. There's some articles where like it really it's like reading between the lines that if they don't get anything for any decent results or any like last minute Hail Mary, it seems like they're gonna cut quits after Monza, which they were what I presume was happening is they were hoping for a customer team. They're hoping people are gonna buy his cars.
Yeah.
That was the end goal. That was the end game because he was gonna race his cars and then he was gonna hope people were gonna buy his cars, race them to make up that money. But as of right now, it's only for Le Mans that
Mm.
the second car is a customer car. The rest of it, it's coming out of his own pocket, isn't it?
Yeah, pretty much. Which is, a shame, but without Glickenhaus, we wouldn't have had 2 years of actual competition in LMH. As much as actual competition wasn't really actual competition, but you know what I mean. So it is a bit of a shame to hear that. It's a shame that they haven't been able to get a customer in the way that they would have liked. But all things considered, with two double finishes at Le Mans so far and a podium, that is quite a return for a privateer team.
Yeah, people can have their opinions on Glick all they want. I know, I'm
He's
gonna,
just a
you know
dude with a
what?
bunch of money who's throwing it at sportscast for our entertainment. I don't understand how people are so mad at him. All he does, like, his entire thing has been like, I am an American dude, I'm racing my car at Le Mans. Like, holy crap, just let the dude fucking race. Oh, look, there we go. Now the stream's freaking age gated because I swore. My gosh, what's going on?
Okay, so devil's advocate. So I'm not saying I'm agreeing with these takes. I'm just saying this is what other people think.
Fuck other
Uh,
people.
he,
Fuck you.
he
All of you listening to this, fuck you.
people didn't like his suing IMSA comments, and that
Oh
was
yeah, I
especially
mean,
especially the IMSA fans, right? It was like, oh, he's too salty, he couldn't join our championship. It's like, no, IMSA, your manufacturer rules suck. Anyway,
yeah,
um,
that's true.
um, and also this one is unwarranted, and this is one I'm going to completely agree with Flood here. The whole sim racing comment, when in reality he wasn't talking about sim racing, he was talking about Aston Martin when Aston Martin was like flexing, what was it, their Valkyrie on like a sim thing,
Yeah, and
and
it's
he's
like,
like, no, 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 that's like, no, the real thing matters. And then Jimmy Broadbent, like, oh, he's talking about sim racers and shitting on us. It's like, no,
no,
like, stop. And
stop.
then that leads to a whole community of, especially Jimmy Broadbent fans who, unfortunately, misled by this news now, have a huge hate boner towards Glick. And it's like, oh, he's slowing down the field. Oh, BOP. Oh, bad cars. Like, oh, shut up.
Guys, we have a very special guest in the booth with us today. Call your monster Ravel, he's bloody done it!
I'm at Lamar, guys. I'm at Lamar.
I don't believe you for a second.
And how's it going, guys?
It's going well. We managed to get a stream up. It is trash and like kind of oh well whatever. But we're here. We're here for our pre-race show. What have you been thinking about the Lamar track action so far, Cookie?
Oh yeah. It's been great. I've been watching it sparsely through random streams via my phone and trying to find ways to find it in the boonies of upstate New York near the Finger Lakes region. At least I was at Watkins Glen 2 days ago,
That's
so I
pretty
feel
rad.
like I'm connected a little bit to the racing community somehow, even though I'm as far away from it as possible. So
I regret to inform you, Cookie, that you are 2 weeks early for the 6 hours of the Glen.
it's just the timing of this all. It's just not working out, Chris. Not working out at all. But
Good.
no, the ceremonies don't start till 3 or 4 p.m. The groom was kicked out of the house at like 8 a.m. for like 7 hours, so the bride can prepare herself. So they all went disc golfing at like 7:30 in the morning, and I'm like, I don't want to do that. I'll
So
just
you're
stay
here.
here and watch Lamar.
Brilliant. I
So
love
here
it.
I am. Yeah.
Brilliant.
So.
Okay, you can join in for the rest of this podcast, I guess. Then.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, you're here. Like, why the hell not? Like, I mean, wasn't already a train wreck. It can't go any worse.
Oh, sweet. Well, I'm here to make it worse. So
Brilliant.
that's like my thing.
So just quickly, last little point on Hypercar. The one team that seems to have had the most problems so far in Hypercar has been Peugeot. We thought their reliability problems were fixed with the new hydraulic actuator for their gearbox. Apparently not. The cars look great, but they still kind of suck.
They suck.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna be a lot of hot water for Peugeot if they have reliability issues just like they had last time. I do understand the fact that they switched from electric to hydraulic actuators for the transmission gearbox, but at the same time, it's just the amount of testing that they've done, and like I don't want to say that the concept's broken, but it like they do need to show kind of some results of what they're trying to do, and it's hard to just hide behind reliability issues for years and years. But this is their first Le Mans, so I don't know. I do want to hold their feet to the fire, but at the same time, it's tough. I almost it feels a lot like kind of like a driver, trying to get into sports car racing that's pretty good, or just anything that it takes like a year or so to just kind of get everything fixed, and then they start to work. I watched the Road Le Mans races, and I'm genuinely sorry. I'm kind of diverting a little bit, but it's kind of the same thread. But
That's fine. We weren't talking about
Valentino
anything.
Rossi's pace has been unbelievable this year. Like he's improved so much, and I just feel like getting an extra bit of like, okay, we've got a full season down, and even as a team, I think that still applies. So I do feel like we can't go pitchforks and axes at Peugeot yet, but
I mean, you know
definitely,
we're going to.
yeah, oh yeah, but I think it's definitely like holding feet to the fire after Le Mans if they don't do well is going to happen. Like I do feel like there's going to be articles and there's going to be lots of discussions on forum posts about how Peugeot is going to do in their reliability. So, but yeah, that's disappointing. I'm not going to lie. I really did expect them to show better pace here and not have as much reliability issues.
Yeah, me too, thanks. What about LMP2? What about LMP2? The Jodo
Crazy.
LMP2 car has been the class of the field so far, mostly in the hands of Petro Fittipaldi. He's been the one really wringing the neck of that thing. But in a
Yeah.
surprise a hyperpole result, Paul Loup Chatin in the IDEX Sport car absolutely monstered him and snuck pole position away. What an incredible result in LMP2. We just did not expect that at all.
No, it's that was actually very surprising. I mean, granted, Hyperpole did get that red flag for the Cadillac,
Yeah.
so some of the true potential pace of a lot of those LMP2s, or just even all the cars in general, were a little bit hampered by that red flag period. So, but yeah, I mean, beyond that crazy pole, Pietro Fittipaldi looks like he's absolutely on fire behind that LMP2. Like
Oh,
Yeah.
unbelievable fast. Like
that's not surprising. He's a NASCAR champion after all.
Oh my god.
but
I
yeah,
was waiting for that, Chris. I was waiting for it, and it still got
I
me.
mean, looking at the LMP2 field in general, like, I mean, it's just really, really close. And like, I hope we don't see the same driving standards that we saw in both the Road to Le Mans series and LMP3, because that was some LMP3 moments there. I don't think
Yeah.
I've seen as much chaotic support races for Road to Le Mans than
In a
this
long
year. It
time.
was
Yeah.
nuts. But yeah,
Um,
it's the pace is unbelievable for LMP2 right now. It's gonna be really close.
yeah. Interesting to see though that neither of the United cars made the hyperpole, if I remember correctly, which was a bit of a surprise. Neither of the Alpine cars made hyperpole, which I found was a surprise. And,
That's not a surprise. That's not a surprise.
yeah. Well, sorry, it's not a surprise. It's just kind of sad. Let me put it that way. It's just kind of sad.
Ugh.
And we did see in warm up today a Control Alt Delete for the number 37 Cool Racing car. Are we feeling cool about Cool Racing, or are we concerned now about Cool Racing?
Sure. All of the above.
Brilliant.
Well, hey, I mean, we had WRT basically control delete on the last lap of the race a few years ago, so anything's possible. So if they get those gremlins out in warm up, they should be fine. So it's that reliability gremlin that always seems to creep around the mall for some reason. So we'll see. We'll see if it's affecting Cool throughout the race, but I don't know. I mean,
That would be
I'm not
uncool.
an expert in
You know,
LMP2 control deletes, so
I believe what was it? Was it the car of Simon Pagenaud in it? And knowing his IndyCar season so far this year, that wouldn't be a surprise if that would be at Le Mans where it breaks down.
oh
Gosh.
god.
Okay, we'll skip ahead. Let's talk about GTEM for the sole reason of talking about Ben Keating, because apparently this class is just the Ben Keating show at the moment. It doesn't matter if Veroni puts it in the wall at the end of FP1, the car will still get out and get to hyperpole. Doesn't matter if he gets a 5-minute penalty for not slowing down for yellow flags, he'll just serve that when a red flag period. That's fine. Ben Keating, like, he was a second quicker than, who was it, Ahmad Al-Hati in the second place TF Sport car in hyperpole. He was 2 seconds quicker than everyone else. Get this man a hypercar drive, I swear.
Yeah, it's getting to that point where I feel like if there was any worthy non-pro driver, I guess outside of Valentino Rossi, it would probably be Ben Keating, just from the fact of, I mean, not even from what he's able to do in GT cars, but like the fact that he can translate it easily to prototypes. I mean, the dude's unbelievable in LMP2s too. So, it doesn't matter if it's a bulky kind of more heavy GT car or if it's a lightweight prototype. He's really, really quick, and he knows where to find pace. And it genuinely seems like his comfort zone with how the balance neutral setup in it seems to be close enough to a lot of pro drivers. So his ability to kind of take a car that the pro drivers use and are fast with and get fast with it himself is unparalleled. Like I haven't seen it since like David Heinemeier Hansen kind of thing. Like
Yeah.
and he was younger, so it's just like what he was doing or what he is doing in sports car racing is just like unbelievable. Like, it's so much respect. And the fact he's a Texan, just a bunch of car dealerships is just even funnier too. So, yeah, I mean, again, I would absolutely love to see him in a hypercar, and something that's competing, because I just feel like what a storyline that would be, and he's easily capable of competing with that. and running decent lap times with it, I think. So
Yeah, absolutely.
time does not catch up with him.
I'd love to see him do a test. Chris, what are your thoughts on GTM and mostly on Ben Keating? Let's be real here.
Okay, so what Cookie said is something I was pretty much going to say already, but just to add something new to the conversations on Corvette racing, I do want to relay that there was announcements this week that this will be the last year of factory Corvette racing. Basically, Corvette racing is not pretty much Pratt. From what I understand, Pratt Miller is going to take over the pretty much the team as it exists, just with less factory support. So you'll see, judging from what basically the predictions as of right now is Pratt Miller is going to take over the GTD Pro cars. There'll be two of them, and then possibly WEC as well, although I don't know if they're going to relay that to a European team. But then they'll have two GTD teams in IMSA, and then they'll have cars in GT World Challenge America. The effectively the name moniker of Corvette Racing is going to be dead after this year. But on the plus side, we can see more Corvettes race.
Yeah, didn't the head of GM basically say we want to see Corvettes racing around the world, which is just something that hasn't happened since, I don't know, GT3 started? There hasn't really ever been a GT3 Corvette, has there?
Callaway.
I mean, but that's like when Jaguar was technically racing in GT World Challenge or Blank Pan, but it wasn't really Jaguar. It was just someone who was using Jaguar's IP to build a car.
Not really. I believe GM actually gave Callaway is like GM's partner in Europe for that for that sort of stuff. There we go.
Yeah, you did it.
There is links between Callaway, and so I say that counts.
Okay,
because
fair enough.
They had the C6 GT3, then they had the C7 GT3.
Yeah.
So they updated it with the cars.
Okay, yeah, fair enough. Let's not talk about GT cars. Let's talk about the NASCAR instead, because boogity, let's go racing, right? This thing has been an absolute monster. Like, it's faster than all the GT cars. The team is fast in the pit stops, the NASCAR style. Sounds like an absolute rocket. Sounds crazy.
Well, it's a Chevy, so you could say the tagline like a rock. So
yeah, like a rock.
Yeah.
Anyone who
the thing is, it's taken Le Mans by storm.
Yeah, surprisingly so. And like it's kind of like I like the Garage 56 for the innovation standpoint, but
boogity, right?
Yeah, I mean sometimes just the weird circumstances behind kind of other series trying to celebrate 75 years of existence just kind of makes a weird but amazing combination. So because a lot of people are like, why is that in Garage 56? And like the easiest explanation is it's NASCAR's 75th birthday.
Yeah, like why the hell not?
To show everybody their new stuff. Yeah, so
like it's been awesome. Like so many comments through the race threads, through the Discord, being like, this thing is amazing. I can't wait to see it race. Like now they've even gone as far, and like totally justifiably as well, to place this car ahead of the GTMs on the grid and ahead of the GTMs in the class split, just because they want it to be more safe, because the car would have to pass all the GTMs. So well done for the ACO, well done to GTM competitors for doing that, because that's actually smart, using your brain head. But the thing, like I'm surprised and honestly just a little terrified. Chris, are you a little terrified as well?
What? No, it's NASCAR, baby. And like Cookie was saying, those people are saying, oh, why is it in Garage 56? And a couple months ago I came across those, I literally came across a person who was like, oh, why is this? It's not innovative enough. Oh, I'd rather have another Oreca LMP2 on the grid. And you know what? I wanted to drink a Bud Light and punch that sucker in the mouth. Because it's literally Garage 56, at least to me. I know maybe officially it's for innovative cars, but for me, it was always basically, oh, your car doesn't fit our regulations, but it's like a cool concept. It's something against the grain. And apart from that time in 1976, NASCAR's at Le Mans. No, you don't really get that. If you want to be pedantic, the last time we had NASCAR's at Le Mans was 2012, the NASCAR Will and Nero series, but that wasn't on the full circuit. That wasn't the 24 hours.
Gosh.
It's just insane, especially when you got Chad Knaus there as well. If you know your NASCAR, he's the crew chief of seven-time NASCAR Cup champion Jimmy Johnson, who coincidentally is racing in that car. I mean, Jimmy Johnson and Chad Knaus, one of the best combinations in all of motorsports, or at least most successful. It's just insane the chemistry that duo has in the in the sport. Then you got Jenson Button, who made his NASCAR debut at Circuit of the Americas in about, I believe, what was it, a couple months ago, with a Rick Ware racing car. And then you have Mike Rockenfeller, who, former DTM champion, former Le Mans overall winner, all-star car, all-star lineup, which if there was like an overall car, well, you can make an argument for Jimmy Johnson maybe not being the most experienced, maybe not being, whatever. But it's still that the lineup of those three having basically a cup car, although there was some
A
changes
heavily modified cup car.
right. I was about to say basically they had to shed 400 pounds of weight and then had to add 100 pounds of electronics. So basically they had to basically shed 500 pounds to make up for that 100 pounds of electronics.
That's hilarious.
That's insane. So no, it's not stick shift. They have paddle shifts inside the car.
Mm.
But I imagine if you're trackside, all that matters is the look, the sound, and the pit stop, which it's a classic NASCAR pit stop with the jack.
Yeah, which is pretty rad. I'm excited to see that thing run at night because that is going to be absolutely nuts. Just in the background of the stream, I do have the brilliant spotter's guide made by Zionbell444, Mateus Groziak. So we've got that on the background. Looking through the spotter's guide, lads, what is your favorite livery of this year's Le Mans? What's your favorite car? What's your favorite? Which one makes you gush every time?
Kris, you go first.
The Peugeot.
The Peugeot. The kaleidoscopic Peugeot, number 93 and 94. The ones that have literally no difference between them.
I like it.
I mean, it's cool. It's cool.
I think it's better than your normal livery, to be honest. Because I just hate like regular gray stuff. I just don't like it. Honorable mention has to go to Rexy.
Rexy, we've got someone in the chat saying Rexy as well. That's the Project One AO car.
It's definitely a fan favorite. I know there's some people who like to get all uptight and all high and mighty, like, oh, the livery sucks. But that's not the point. Basically, what they do as an extension of that car. It's what makes it so great.
Mm.
Like at the IMSA races, they literally deck out their paddock space with palm trees and like Jurassic theme, and like they literally have people in dinosaur costumes on the team. It's just so fun, and I think that's what we need more of.
Yeah, I agree. I think they've done a really good job, especially engaging with kids. I remember seeing an interview or quote from PJ Hyatt saying the kids love it, and we love getting the kids in and excited about the car as well. So that's kind of cool. Cookie, your turn.
I'll say Rexy to start because I'm crazy.
Nice.
And also just because I'm most preferential to art cars, and that's as close of an art car as you're gonna get to Le Mans, even though it's kind of we've seen the livery before in IMSA, but yeah, I love the car, and then obviously the hype around it. Everybody's really excited about it, and honestly, it's more so for me like any livery that gets the attention of fans and that like gets them talking is just like, all right, that's good for the sport. I love that one. So honorable mention is just Joda's livery. Yep. I'm super preferential to that just gold, red, silver trim kind of thing that they got going on. It just pops, and so I really like that one too. Honorable dismention goes to Porsche with their terrible whatever the hell that is.
I will say that seeing the car on track and in motion has softened my opinion on that livery. I still don't think it's great, but I don't think it's ugly like I used to.
It's not the worst thing ever, but it's just like it's so disappointing knowing that they could have done something so much better than just did that. So.
Yeah.
And also just so I can say rub Porsche in it a little bit, so.
I mean, hey, we're snapping on your tail, buddy. We're gonna beat Toyota, and you're gonna suck it. I am wearing my Porsche hat trick T-shirt today as well, the one that I got sent from Europe. So I've got that on. Man. I've got that on.
Also, just quickly, shout out to Indecisive Rock who got spotted.
Hell
on the
yeah.
track. He put the RWC flag on a pole and stuck in the back of a bike.
And
What?
and as well, shout out to the entire r/WEC crew who's at Lamar, who might be listening to this, but but they're probably rather getting into their spots for the race start. They've been sending in a bunch of pictures, bunch of stuff, being interactive in the Discord. They look like they're having an awesome time. So if you ever are planning to go to Lamar, joining in with a bunch of people from this server is probably a cool way of doing it. So cool for them as well, guys. Just quickly. We're less than an hour away from the start of the Centenary event, and that means it's time for the fucking race threads to go up. Race threads up on Reddit. I know no one uses Reddit anymore, but the race threads up.
I want to reiterate that I believe that's just broadcast start time. I believe we have 2 hours until green.
No, we don't. Oh, well, we do have 2 hours till green. Okay, that's fine. Yeah, you're right.
Man, now what am I going to do with my time?
Go to this stupid wedding of your stupid friend.
You can.
True.
Yeah.
I can do that.
I want to share my favorite livery because I think it's different to everyone, and I want to feel important.
Oh, yeah, what's your favorite livery?
My favorite livery is the TF Sport Aston Martin, not the orange one, but the blue and green one, the Pescarolo tribute. I think that is gorgeous. It's styled after the 1973 winning Matra Simca 670S, which of course had the royal blue of the Matra and the green highlights of Pescarolo. And I think for the Le Mans locals, Arnold and Maxime Robin, and a great friend of Henry Pescarolo, Valentin Hasclot, to tribute to a man who was like ubiquitous with Le Mans. That's my favorite.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great tribute livery. I actually just forgot about it. So
how dare you?
I know. But it's obviously like the tribute for it is great. Pescarolo and then Matra Simca, and the Aston Martin looks gorgeous anyway. So
it's true.
Some of the best liveries of the weekend too, from Road to Le Mans, like that Aston Martin livery from there was just, that thing was gorgeous too. I was just like, man, they are really stepping it up at Aston Martin with these liveries.
It is a really, really good time. It's a good time to be a sports car fan. All the entire grid looks very pretty. It's very distinct. And there's a lot of really cool personalities that you can track and follow. And by the way, if you haven't listened to our preview podcast, I mean, it's probably a bit too late now. But we did go through all the drivers and talk through all the personalities. And there still might be time to get your picks in for the Fantasy WEC competition if you want to have a reason to follow cars you might not normally follow. Just a quick note before I continue on our Endurance Chat podcast previews. I do want to say a huge thank you to everyone who has been listening to us over the course of the 8 years we've been doing it, who have shared it with their friends, who have seen it in the threads and jumped on. I just want to quickly make mention of the fact that we had our most downloaded episode in the lead up to Le Mans with our preview. It hit 940 downloads so far, which is astonishing. That's like 300 more than anything else we've ever done. Even our class previews are doing way better than we normally would expect. So it means a lot to me personally, the fact that people are still willing to take on our content and to listen to us talk about something we love so much and enjoy it and keep coming around. So yeah, very humbled, and I want to say a big thank you to everyone who listens to our stuff, including all of you, all of you here.
Thanks for sticking around for whatever this is.
Yeah, this is a bit different. On that note as well, while I have got you here and we are talking about Endurance Chat, I am planning to do another game show for the summer break, and so there is one round in this game show that requires an audience survey. So not audience participation, unfortunately, but a survey. So I'm just about to post a link of the survey in the chat. If everyone wants to jump in and do that survey for me, so that way I can get these other idiots to make wrong guesses. I would love that.
Can I participate?
No, you can't. You can't know the questions ahead of time. You're disbarred.
Oh, okay.
Don't do it. It's free labor.
Well, Comrade Dale Earnhardt would not be a fan.
Okay, but back to the show. Guys, there was, of course, the Friday news from Le Mans, where everyone goes, this is where everyone's going to be. Let's talk about our new thing that's happening, or release the calendar. So, do you want to talk about the new cars, or talk about the new calendars?
As long as we don't have a new race mascot that looks like a furry, I'm totally fine with that.
No.
Sorry. What? talking about the Nürburgring 24.
Shut up.
What that box or what? Okay, I'm sorry. What was the question?
Do we want to talk about the calendar, or do we want to talk about cars?
Talk about the calendar.
Let's talk about the calendar.
Yeah.
Okie dokie. We have a brand new calendar for 2024. It starts on January 1st. No. So we're starting at the prologue at the end of February at Qatar, with the race a week later. It's a 1,812 kilometer race, which is apparently to do with the National Day of Qatar or something, or like 10 hours. On top of that as well, we lose the Super Sebring weekend. Sorry, Cookie. That's going to become the Circuit of the Americas, but that will happen in September after Le Mans. Also, Monza is being swapped out for Imola. I believe there is a reason for that I am not read into, but I believe there's a good reason for that, and I think Chris knows. And as well, we gain Sao Paulo on the entry, on the calendar rather, which is, I think, really, really cool. Let's talk Super Sebring first. Kiwi, not Kiwi. Kiwi. Oh, rest in peace, Kiwi. Cookie. Rest in peace, Super Sebring. 2020 to 2020.
Yep.
20.
Sure, clear the hashtag, guys. Whatever he just said, all the flubs too. Just put all that in. Send it to Twitter. Whatever you guys do. Yeah, it's disappointing. As somebody who attends Sebring every year, I would have loved to see the WC be there every single year. I do get that sometimes you can get calendar changes and challenges in terms of, I mean, it's not the greatest weekend for WC in terms of, pecking order and being there as well. And obviously, I feel like, yes, they could probably have pivoted to a different calendar date in the U.S. and probably got a little bit more attention, but it's just it sucks to see it leave Sebring.
Yeah.
I think it doubly hurts to see it go to Coda, and it'll triple hurt to see it go to Indy, even though I do get where Indy is going to be a better show than Coda. And I say that because I feel like we're going to see a lot of, because I think Penske already said that they'll do infield camping for the sports car weekend. So we're going to already see a different looking Indy course than we're used to seeing, even for the Indy cars or for NASCAR or whatever. So at least that should be a little bit of an upgrade of the show, even though the track sucks. But yeah, it's disappointment because I just do think that it was a great event. Yeah. And they kind of are trying to reach out beyond that great event to see if they can do better. And I'm not entirely sure if they can.
Chris, your thoughts? Coda as the replacement, even if it's just for a season. Yeah. What do you think about that?
So I think overall, so I know Super Sebring was, fan favorite, beloved, but just having a world championship race, that's the key. World championship race on a Friday. I know it was great for fans at the track, but for the people at home, it did kind of suck. That's a work day. Sponsor commitments, or sponsors, higher ups probably don't like that because it means less eyeballs. Watching the race, it really wasn't viable, and I'm one of the, this is going to be a hot take, I'm glad it left Sebring. Because
I mean, yeah, me too, because Sebring sucks. What? Huh? Who said that?
Okay.
Who said that?
I don't know.
But
I don't know.
I have a different reasoning from Flood. I think Sebring's awesome, but here's my reasoning. Even though, yes, there is the race at Qatar, late February, there might not be, the air freight, the freight times, et cetera, et cetera. But what this does mean is that there's at least a window for drivers and teams to race the 12-hour, which I think that's how it should be ever since the convergence was made. Because if there's convergence, I know, WEC, some teams, there's a Glickenhaus, Vanwall, etc. But let's say Ferrari or Toyota or something like that is interested. They'll be able to join. While if they're having their own race the day before, they're can't really do the 12 hours unless they bring a third car, can they? And I believe the personnel probably don't want to do that. So at least there's now a window for WEC teams or just European teams in general to race the 12-hour, which is the main Sebring race. Another thing is, I would like to see WEC have more. Basically, I want their reputation to be more as just the IMSA support race
Yeah.
because it, because Coda is not the devil that everyone thinks they are. Coda can. I know people say the 2020 race sucked. I remember it differently. I thought it was at least decent. I remember GTE AM being good, but Coda's not the worst. It's definitely not the best, but it's definitely not the devil, like I said, that people make it out to be. And like Cookie has alluded to, the end game basically is 2025 is the WEC IMSA doubleheader at Indy. They're going to make it a huge sports car weekend, but this time WEC is going to be the main event. And I know people don't like Indy that much, but I think in terms on paper, it's going to be better for the sport when they do go to Indy because A, why should they down the free marketing of going to Indianapolis, one of the most famous racetracks in the world?
Yeah.
And B, you're gonna have IMSA there as well, which is gonna be more the ticket's gonna be more worth it than just say basically as of right now it's just gonna be WC at Coda, which WC is great and all, but it makes the ticket has more value when you got other stuff to go along with it. So the Indy even as of right now sounds has more value in my opinion. But in other calendar news, Imola replacing Monza switched from a July to a April date. The reasoning why they switched the dates is I believe they actually, you know what? It's pretty much conjecture, but I'm pretty safe to assume that they changed the date around for logistical reasons for them to ship out the cars because Interlagos is the middle of July, and that's normally like July is usually a Monza date. So basically, they switched the Italian round to before Le Mans, but Monza is doing track repairs. Well, not track repairs, but basically they're reworking the track that part of the year.
Yeah.
So that means GT World Challenge Monza is also going to be affected because they're also in April. So chances are we're going to see GT World Challenge back at Imola as well. But yeah, as far as we know, the Imola switch is not long lasting. We don't know of any long term contracts. So as of right now, it seems to me that 2025, at least it's safe to say that I think Monza would be back on the menu.
Which would be good.
Qatar, I know people have I know it is frustrating because we know the elephant in the room, the human rights abuses and everything of the such. But the reality is that the dealing with Qatar, and I believe there's some other deals going on with their air freight, which means that it might have allowed us to have another round. So it really was. It's like not go to Qatar and have limited. It was basically a devil's deal.
Yeah, it was making the most of a Qatari situation.
Yeah, but the Qatar track it's great for MotoGP. If you ever watch a MotoGP race there, I highly recommend it. But yeah, so MotoGP's great. Qatar, I know when Formula One went there, it really was.
Wait, Formula One went there?
Yeah, I remember it wasn't that bad, but although the tire punctures did kind of make up the bulk of the entertainment there.
I legitimately have no memory of Formula One going to Qatar.
Was it 2021?
Yeah, it might have been that. But who knows? We've seen tracks on paper where like, oh, this is supposed to be suck. This is gonna suck. But then sports cars go there, multi-class endurance go there. Yeah, it's awesome. So
yeah, like Paul Ricard. If you don't watch sports car races at Paul Ricard because you think Paul Ricard's a shit track, watch sports car races at Paul Ricard. It's amazing.
Especially GT4 European Series Race 2. That's if you have one, if that's gonna be a put that in your watch later list. Make sure that after Le Mans, when you get the time, if you have some like an hour free, watch that race. It's one of the best sports car races of all time.
There you go. I'm excited to see Sao Paulo back on the menu again. I really think that's a great track for sports cars. And in my early days of watching the WEC, that was one that we went to fairly regularly. And it's good to see that one back on the calendar. Porsche's first win in the WEC, Sao Paulo, 2014, in the last race of that season. definitely wasn't going to lose it on strategy until Mark Webber had that massive crash that ended the race. But you know, you take him how you get him. So I'm quite excited about that. And Coda, Coda's just kind of lame. It's like the most exciting race I've watched at Coda was the race where all of a sudden it pissed down with rain and cars were aquaplaning off the circuit. And then once it dried out, it just kind of nothing unexpected happened. So,
But the major flaw in your argument, Flood, Coda is good because Ross Chastain won there.
Oh my god. I don't know who these American people are.
How else are you going to see a watermelon just dropped from the major tower in the infield? I mean,
I hate it. I hate it. There was a thought that I was about to express, and then you said that, Chris, and the question I have about racing in America is, what alternatives are there for the WEC? If you're not going to go to Indy, and you're not going to go to Coda, like, where else can you go? Because it doesn't really seem to be a lot of options, if you want something with, like, a pit building and, you know, decent facilities.
and this is where it might get into a little bit of rap, but yeah, like you said, Flood, where else are they going to go? I know people already have their ideas in hand, but this is a world championship. One would assume they would want something with good amenities. And like people are throwing around all the tracks, and they're good. They're good tracks. I'm not saying they're bad, but the lack of garages and the lack of things from media, especially for a world championship, as of this size, especially if since it's grown so much, it may not be a viable alternative unless it's shared with Sebring, like an IMSA weekend.
But even then, at Sebring, like an IMSA weekend, they're still doing it like the American way with the tents and the pit wall, and like it's just not like. I get American racing it's kind of its own thing, and that's cool. And I would have thought maybe with the increased popularity of F1 in America that you'd see more circuits being pushed up to that sort of F1 standard. But what's happening is they're just going to freaking stupid city streets and making awful tracks that are shit to watch, shit to drive on, and shit to look at, and with shit facilities anyway. So like, I don't know, give freaking Watkins Glen a glow up or something. Or, knock the train line off at Road America and turn that into a Formula 1 track. Like, holy shit.
Well, I don't know how many... Watkins Glen does have garages, but they're all in the infield for the Cup guys.
Yeah.
Which I think, if we're just spitballing here, if I'm just living... This is most likely fantasy land, but if let's say we had to choose, since there's back in the heyday 43 cars for Cup, and yeah, there's enough for WC, use Watkins Glen because you still get that American flavor, you still get to use the pit wall, which I found really cool, but you still have garages, you still have actual like garages for the teams instead of having them use tents and stuff, which I think
it's a place go ahead, sorry.
I think that's a good compromise. They still get to have their own garages. They don't have to worry about tents, and we get to see them use the pit wall.
And it's a place with proper motorsport heritage as well, not like the soulless beast that is Coda. Anyway, let's leave that alone, or let's do something a little tangential to that. Something else that's happening next year, which is kind of bad, but for great reasons, is that the LMP2 class is being omitted from the World Endurance Championship. Because we have, I think the number is going to be 20 hypercars at least, plus the whole LMGT3 thing, which is happening. So, unfortunately, the victim of all this success is LMP2, at least in the WEC. What is... Chris, we'll go Chris first. What are your thoughts on the omission of LMP2 from the WEC? And where do we go from here?
It really was a necessary evil, wasn't it? Because when you look at the way things are going, take a look at the LMP2 field right now in main WEC. I'm not talking about the Le Mans entries we have. I'm talking about full-time WEC. Joda already moving up, and one would presume that maybe they won't like maybe they'll like kind of fall back on their not fall back, but kind of leave their LMP2 team behind to focus on hypercar if it really comes down to it. Uh, um, who else?
WRT.
WRT,
Yep. Alpine.
Alpine's moving up, so that's literally half the
Prema.
grid pretty much.
Prema Racing as well with two
Yeah,
cars.
yeah. So what does that leave you with? It's United and Inter Europol, isn't it? And just from the top of my head, those are the two teams I know that are sticking around.
Well, you've also got Vector Sport, but Vector Sport are also going to be jumping up to LMH with sort of Frank Cutie.
Yeah. So when you look at it that way, it doesn't really make much sense to continue on the class, doesn't it? When you have all this interest from Hypercar and especially with GT3 coming in. I know people who are dying on this hill may have the argument of, like, well, maybe some of the AM teams can move up, but in reality, this is kind of like the situation where, and we'll talk about GT3 in a minute, I'm sure, about the two cars per manufacturer thing. But in reality, for like Asian Le Mans or European Le Mans or even IMSA, how many of those teams can afford to do a world championship apart from United and Inter Europol?
Well, on that note, United came out as soon as the announcement was made and said, "Okay, we're going to IMSA." Like,
Yeah,
that's the best place for them to be racing. And they're probably chasing a hypercar works effort as well. And I have intel as to how close they were to getting a already established hypercar works effort. But I'm not allowed to say it. I'm not even allowed to tell you who told me. But I think that's pretty easy to work out. But yeah. It's like the only real losers out of this whole thing, I guess, is Inter Europol.
yeah. But they still have ELMS, and they still, even Asian Le Mans if they really wanted to do, which I'm sure we'll talk about Asian Le Mans in a second. They had some calendar news that they announced that'll make some people happy. But yeah, Le Mans having 15 spots, I think is more than fair for the LMP2 because when you take a look at it this way, Flood, you have as of right now, we have around 20 cars in ELMS for LMP2.
Oh yeah, lots. We got lots.
IMSA, it's I believe it's single digits for full season LMP2. And then Asian Le Mans, it had a increase recently, but that was pretty much mainly like ELMS teams, wasn't it?
Pretty much, yeah.
Kind of. So I think 15 spots is more than fair. I don't know if they announced how they're going to allocate those spots. I would presume most of it is going to go to European Le Mans series, and then the rest will, Asian Le Mans will have a couple, and then IMSA, I'm sure.
I figured it would be like you get one for winning your way in, like you do normally, and then like maybe the top 3 or top 5 in each category, or they do it like invite only, and it's like teams who have been committed to the ACO's LMP2 product for a long time, who get their spots. Chris, you've had a lot of chat about this. Cookie, do you have an opinion?
No opinions whatsoever. No.
That doesn't sound like you.
Yeah, for sure. No, I'm fine with the LMP2 getting axed for NWC. I mean, outside of obviously Le Mans, WC provides kind of that anchor for a lot of the major factory championship teams to kind of still showcase and run as a major championship outside of Le Mans. And I don't know, in a weird way, I've been kind of thinking about this last week, and it kind of adds a little bit to it because it makes Le Mans a little bit more unique, where you are combining classes where you don't see them anymore racing together. Like obviously we love to see as many classes as humanly possible in these races. In every race, but there might be something very, very interesting about not seeing LMP2's race at all in WC, and then essentially adding them to the fray come Le Mans. And I think that would be super unique and interesting. So, I mean, sure, like having insane battles is great, but at the same time, like the whole fact that it's just a Rekas just always ticks me off about it. So,
Yeah.
I'm fine with not having gap fillers essentially anymore because we don't need them, and we really can just ride around with the LMGT3s and with the hypercars. So
and that was
go ahead, Chris.
Like Cookie mentioned about spec Oregas, and that was one of the complaints that people did have. they weren't interested because they're all the same car. And me and you, Flood, we are, and especially Cookie, we all know that, especially in the dark days where, you know, three car top class, where LMP2s, stole the show for the
Mm.
racing. I mean, especially Le Mans last year. Um, LMP, I remember like the first half of the race, pretty much all the focus was on LMP2s because they were like the only class that are having battles on track.
Yeah.
And the the one of the, I guess, pluses you could say that with going to Hypercar and GT3, especially for maybe someone who isn't in tune with the sport like us, an outsider, they're gonna see all sorts of different types of cars now instead of the same types of same spec car racing each other on screen. So instead of just 10 Orecas on screen, they're gonna see Lamborghinis, they're gonna see Toyotas, they're gonna see Corvette, they're gonna see BMW, et cetera, et
Yeah.
cetera. So that's another point that can be made with this announcement.
Yeah. We'll just quickly take a sidebar. There's just something that's been posted in the podcast discussion chat, which is about the car 708, which is, of course, one of the Glickenhauses. If you're watching on the stream, it's the one with the fun little fin on the spotter's guide. Apparently, that car has not made it out of the pit lane before the pit exit has closed. So they will start a lap down and from the pit lane, which is not ideal for Romain Dumas, Oliver Pla, and Ryan Briscoe. Apparently a brand new gearbox seal broke, so they changed the gearbox and they might be stuck in pit lane for the first lap.
What's that meme? I know Glickenhaus usually does the Nürburgring. It's like, get ready to learn German, buddy.
Far out.
Yeah, unfortunate start for the race for them.
Race hasn't even started. We still got 90 minutes.
Yeah, well, let's get one more bullet in the gun, so to speak. I just did my best Calvin Fish impression there.
Yeah.
Usually, but yeah, I did mention that we had some Asian Le Mans calendar news, Flood, didn't we?
I wanna go back to what we were about to talk about, because I was about to say, let's talk about LMGT3, because we've lost LMP2 and we're gonna lose LMGT AM. But we're going to get LMGT3, which is going to be GTE AM, but in GT3 cars, because a lot of the customers in LMP2 are moving up to Hypercar or LMDH or whatever. Whereas in GTE, the customers who are the lifeblood of that class, the well-funded amateurs that are bringing the money in, aren't going to have somewhere to race. So they've kept it AM, but it's going to move to GT3, and I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, it was pretty much writing on the wall. I mean, because IMSA, killed it a long time ago. They killed the GTE class in the States, and just forced everyone to GT3s because the last season was only like what 3 cars for the full season. It was just time to go, especially since they weren't making new cars anymore. Everybody was pulling out. It really is a shame to see these cars go. They were absolutely fun to watch, but GT3 was the more sensible decision. I know some people don't want to see GT3 racing everywhere. I kind of I understand that, but if Road to Le Mans is anything to go by when they were under green, the GT3 racing can be absolutely spectacular, and hopefully we'll get to see some of that emulated next year. And one thing, it wasn't announced on the Friday news day, but one thing that got people talking was the 2 car per manufacturer rule. And my opinions on that is, I think because of the circumstances that they have found themselves in with limited grid space, I think it's perfectly reasonable, because what they're looking for is car variety.
Yeah.
And take a look at the hypercar grid. Look at how many cars have GT3s. Like you could argue, Toyota with the Lexus, because that's Cadillac with Corvette,
Porsche
BMW
with the Porsche,
yeah,
Ferrari with the Ferrari.
Then you got others,
BMW with the BMW,
Mercedes and Ford.
And they have said as well that the 2 cars for the GT3s. You're right there, Cookie?
Yeah, I'm just adjusting my headset.
No,
Sorry.
it's okay. It just made it sounded like you like literally farted into the mic. It
Oh, nice, nice.
they said that the teams will be nominated by the manufacturer, and that preference would be given to GT3 manufacturers who are also in hypercar. So that means that we're likely to see Porsches on the grid, Ferraris on the grid, BMWs on the grid, Acura maybe on the grid, Lexus maybe on the grid, Lamborghini on the grid. If Renault decide that they want to create a GT3 car, we might see the Renault on the grid. We'll probably see Mercs. We'll probably see those other ones that I've forgotten, who don't have a GT. Far out. Aston Martins. Far out. Gosh, that was embarrassing. Where was I going to go with that? Cookie.
There's a lot of manufacturers potentially joining for the 2-car limit.
Yeah,
Does
there's
not really
plenty.
make any relevant conversation. Yeah, absolutely.
And also we might see Ford on the GT3 grid because they released their GT3 Challenger on Friday with a surprise announcement that they will be they've sold their first cars to their first customer, which is Proton. What?
Yeah. And Proton, I mean, that Proton not racing Porsches is not because they're racing with BMW. I'm thinking of Project One. Never mind. But yeah, Proton with Ford. Shock announcement. We all know Ford's, we all know Ford with Multimatic. We thought maybe maybe. Yeah, Multimatic was the car was with the close Ford relationship. We thought maybe that was going to be like the first customer announcement, but no. For confirmation is Proton. One thing I want to go back to the LMGT3 is that lots of people were maybe not lots of people, maybe they're a vocal minority, but people were complaining about the 2-car limit. And my reaction is, would you rather have a Porsche Cup and Ferrari Challenge Field? Like, I don't honestly understand why the amount of complaining, because I would rather have this situation where they have 2-car limit but with a great variety than
the same cars.
Only, yeah. And I guess people are mad. It's like, oh well, the manufacturers are choosing the teams. They're being it's a good old boys club. The privateers can't just. It's like, I don't know what else you want them to do, unless you have an invitation process, which that'll just make people mad, because then they'll say, oh, they're just arbitrarily choosing which teams they want to join. Which, at least in this case, it takes the blood off the ACO's hands, and it's the teams that decide on who to go for them. It's just, I don't know. For some of these people, nothing makes them happy.
Speaking of, we've got someone in our stupid Discord being a stupid idiot who needs to go get banned. So that's great fun. Jeez. Okay. Cool.
Speaking of band jingle there.
Oh, well done, RPG, who's at the track, has gone and done and banned him. Well done. I'm impressed. He's done very well. By the way, if you haven't done our little survey for Endurance Chat for a game show that we're going to do next 2 months away, come do it. Here's the link again, because I want more responses, because 15's not enough. Do the survey. What are we going to talk about next? So yeah, Ford is that's a really, really interesting thing. It's a really weird thing, the fact that they've got Proton in it. I totally understand your point about car variety. The fact that we're going to have like 20 hypercars and probably also 20 GT cars in WC next year is, ludicrous in the best way possible. So yeah, like, bring on 2024, but like after 2023, because we still got the Centenary 24 Hours Le Mans, guys. Like, how cool is that? We still got that to come up.
Yeah. That's coming up soon, right? I think.
Yeah, like, I don't know. It's like an hour and 25 minutes away. I'm not sure if you've heard of it. It's just, this event called Le Mans. What else should we talk about? You wanted to talk about the calendar, Chris?
Yes, Asian Le Mans Series had their calendar released on the Friday news day. That should make at least if not some people happy, at least a step in the right direction. So basically, in the first weekend of December, we have a doubleheader at Sepang, which I think is a fantastic track. If we were to introduce the series back into the region, I think that would be one of the perfect tracks to go to. And especially since we do have some homegrown Malaysian teams that race with the Asian Le Mans with Viper and Nisa Racing in the past. So I think step in the right direction. I think everyone's hoping for at least more of races in the region, but like I think it's understandable that it's baby steps. They're making one step at a time to make sure everyone's happy because
Yeah,
shipping
but
ain't
like,
cheap and I know, Flood, you're gonna complain about the UAE. Do you honestly expect them to leave the UAE?
please, like,
No, I having them in the UAE is actually good because it's cheaper for this because instead of because look at the old calendar. They had to like what freight them because Asia you can't just drive across Asia.
no,
It's all
it's not. But like, there's so many cool tracks in Asia that they could be using. Like Sepang's one of them. Sepang's great. I'm glad they got Sepang back. They were meant to go to Suzuka. Suzuka would have been awesome for multi-class with these kind of cars. So that seems like it's not going to happen. Like Shanghai, yeah, whatever. It's Shanghai. Buriram produced some great racing. I loved seeing the Asian Le Mans series at Buriram. I want them to come back to Australia. Damn it. That's really what I want. I just want them to come back to Australia. I want to go see them at the
we
bend.
finally figured out what this is all about.
I haven't seen
Finally got there.
a prototype race car for 3 years in person. I haven't seen a hypercar at all. I never got to see LMP1. I just want to see. I just want race. Just give me racing. But yeah,
You're supposed to go to Le Mans this year, dude. What's
I know. I couldn't get it to happen. Which is sad. Look, I totally understand that the UAE is a convenient solution for the COVID years. That I totally understand. It worked really well. The first year they did it was really, really good. The second year they did it was like okay. I was completely disengaged this year. Like I watched like half of one race and was like, I don't want to watch anymore because I've seen this story before. So I want to find something. I want to be interested in the Asian Le Mans series again, and this calendar is doing nothing to promote that except for Sepang.
and but the cat's out of the bag now, Flood. I'm sorry to say, but they are never leaving. I certainty they are never leaving the UAE. They are staying in the UAE from now on. The cat's out of the bag now. The teams like it. They're not going to take away from that. Just to piss off the teams just to make a few
The teams
people
like it because it's not any of the Asian teams. It's all of the European teams coming over looking for a Le Mans invite.
Yeah, and here's my listen. Here's a compromise, Flood. I think in the future we're gonna because if they're gonna do because right now they have 5 races instead of the usual 4. So I think actually we're having more races than ever in Asian Le Mans with 5 instead of 4. Um, what they might do is potentially maybe next year they could have a step where they go to Sepang, then maybe another track in the region, and then they go to UAE. And then for like 2 weeks, for basically 1 week they go to Dubai, then they end at Yas Marina, or vice versa.
Yeah. I just think the doubleheader format doesn't work for sports car endurance because you're already watching 4 hours of racing. So you don't need 4 hours of racing on one day and 4 hours of racing on the second day. That's kind of why I didn't really like Super Sebring as a concept because like after a 10-hour race, the last thing I really want to do is watch another 12-hour race the next day. So it's just one of those little things. I love that they're expanding it out, and I think the Asian Le Mans series is great. It's just I want to see different tracks, man.
Fair.
Yeah.
I still think though that it's I don't know. I mean, they definitely make sense for what they're doing, but at the same time, it's hard to call it an Asian Le Mans series. Like call it ME series. Like let's.
Middle East is in Asia though.
Right, but
like it's
again a lot of this was done specifically for COVID protocols.
Yeah.
And now that stuff is not doing that anymore. Like there needs to kind of be a purpose for the championship to still exist, in its original form. Like I get that the teams might love it and all that stuff, but it's very, very confusing from the outset when you're going, okay, well, all these other championships go to these race weekends. They make a calendar, year of it, and we all know that the Asian Law Series kind of runs in the winter. But it's just like, why does it have to happen in a 3-week span with 2 races back to back like that? Because we're not in COVID anymore. So, like, it would be nice to at least see Asian Law Series explain themselves as to why they're going to just stay in these 2 race formats. If it's cost savings, if it's specifically because the tracks don't want them back. Like, I just would love to know why this is staying, outside of maybe cost
Yeah.
factors.
It's shipping
cost.
costs.
It's cost.
Okay.
Like it's
the
just
good news
so
is
so
that
awfully convenient. You have hotels on the racetracks. Like
there's doubleheader at Sepang, then there's a single round at Dubai, then they finish out with a doubleheader at Yas Marina. Step in the right direction. And also someone said, "What's the point?" I believe this is going to be in effect for the next year. So that, basically, at least for the GT Championship, it's going to be combined with the GT World Challenge Asia in terms of points. And whoever at the end of the GT World, basically at the end of the season for GT World Challenge Asia, those points gets combined, and whoever wins is on top of that gets the Le Mans invite. So there's still at least for GT, we get to still see strong Asian representation.
yeah, okay, fair. I just liked when the Asian Le Mans series went to cool tracks, and yeah, that's just my thing. We've got about 18 minutes before the stream's meant to start, so I want to quickly talk about the new Alpine that was released yesterday, the Alpine 424 Beta, which is a weird name, but hey, I'm not going to complain. It looks pretty good. It's built around the Orica spine. So the Orica LMP2 chassis for the new regs, which haven't been released, but maybe will never get released at this point. Who knows? Like who knows?
It's been No, I mean I'm
perpetually
I'm right
delayed.
With you, it's that we all talk about elephants in the room, but like I mean I think that's the biggest elephant in the room in all of sports car racing. If you want to talk about 2017 regs were supposed to be sunsetted like 3 years ago.
Let's leave that there, Cookie. Let's open that box once we talk about the Alpine. 44B powered by a 3.4 liter V6 Mechachrome engine, looks pretty sweet. Love it. Love how it looks. I like most that
I don't love that engine, dude.
On the wing.
That engine is.
Yeah, I will get to that. I love on the wing how it says my other car is an Alpine A110. That really warms my heart because I love that car. Okay, so let's talk about the engine. Cookie, talk to us about the engine.
GP2 engine, bro. It's a GP2 engine, and there's a reason why they call sometimes when what is it F2 cars stop on the track. It's like a verb called mechachromed because they are unholy unreliable. So it's it's going to be a challenge for Alpine to figure out how to make those things reliable, or at least to tone it down a bit so that they don't break. Yeah, so I mean we're I don't want to say it's as bad as some like the what is it X-Track for the Nissan GT or LM, but I do want to say the thing. I'm nervous about how that car is going to try to compete 24 hours with the current state of what I know of Mechachrome engines. So it's a cool looking car. I'm already very nervous about it. So
the freaking taillights as the Alpine A, like that's excessive as fuck.
Oh yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So beyond the Mechachrome thing, which is its own thing, and I don't know why they've gone that engine. Car looks gorgeous. Alpine coming back to top class of Le Mans. We knew this was going to happen because that's the whole reason that they did the LMP1 thing, and that's the whole reason that they stuck it out. So it's cool that Signatech have been able to get this to happen. So good on them. It's also cool that Alpine is kind of getting this big revival as like the Renault Sport like sport brand. So that's pretty fun. Built, I think is it the first of the LMDHs built around the Orica? No, the Acura was also built around the Orica, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so we've had the Riley, or not the Mechachrome, the Multimatic, which is going to be built around the Porsche. The Ligier is for the Lamborghini. The Cadillac is the Delara. This will be the Orica. The what else we got? The BMW is also the Ligier, was it? It's hard to remember.
Delara for BMW, I believe.
Okay. And then the Acura was also the Orica, and that's all we've got in LMDH at the moment. Cool. Yeah. So with these entries into Le Mans next year, or these entries to the WC next year, with Lamborghini in the WC next year, with BMW in the WC next year, that's going to be like 22 cars before you add customers. Like, is that just a little terrifying, a little scary, a little amazing? I mean, I guess, you know, if Glickenhaus drop out and who knows what happens with Vanel, but like, still, that's really exciting.
I'm excited. I don't know about Kris, but
like, who needs LMP2 if we've got that much competition at the top of the class?
well, that's what I'm saying. I mean, it is annoying to have to see some of it drop, but you know, as again you've said it before, we're all very outspoken of the you know, the LMP2 spec series that is a Reka chassis, and just so swapping out a spec series chassis for one that, you know, is different than every single other car that's on the track is preferred. I would love to see as many unique cars on the track as possible. So yeah, it's again, it's I would love it if we had an infinite garage to fit all the cars we ever wanted to, and
Yeah.
shipping costs weren't a thing, but I'm fine with this. I consider it an upgrade. So
Yeah. It's cool.
yeah.
Okay, so let's open up. Let's quickly. We've got 13 minutes. Let's quickly open up that elephant in the room for like 5 minutes before we do predictions, and then we do a sign off. So what is happening with the LMP2, the next generation of the LMP2 regs? Like, but actually, what is happening? If LMP2 is not going to be in the WEC, if they're already being built up as freaking the GTP cars, the LMDH cars, if we're not going to hear about anything that's happening with these next gen cars, like what is happening? What is going on?
I have no idea.
like who knows what's going on? Are we ever going to see a new LMP2 car? Or is this just it? Or are we just going to get a perpetual parade of Orica 07s forever?
Yeah, I mean, in a weird way, it almost feels like if the ACO FIA did get an extra amount of hypercars and they did get enough interest in GT3 with just however many manufacturers want to participate in that. I mean, I don't even know if their thing is that they'll replace him at this point. I mean, they will replace him for ELMS and whatnot, but it just feels like they're almost willing to let this problem just go kick the can as far down the road as humanly possible until they absolutely need to, which does not make any sense outside of every other thing that they've been doing with these regulations. And you know, like the highlight of all this stuff is obviously like LMP1H basically dying before our eyes. And you know, and it feels so out of place to see the ACO not say anything about a class that should have existed before LMDH even took the wheel. So like, I get that the timing made sense to basically push off LMP2 release so that you had the chassis available for hypercar manufacturers, but at the same time it just feels like this is on a perpetual hold.
Yeah.
You know, for multiple years now without any announcement or update as to what's going to happen with it. So
Yeah. So like,
and it doesn't seem like the teams are prepping either. So it seems like the teams are just going like, well, we're just going to keep running these until you guys tell us to stop. But it doesn't seem like there's any amount of assumption that it's going to stop soon.
Yeah, like if the LMP2 are getting taken out of the WEC, of course, like there will be a reduction in the customer base. Like while it's going to be strong in the ELMS and strong in IMSA and strong in the Asian Le Mans series as the top class, there will be a reduction of their customer base over time. So, you know, does that mean that LMP2 is going to die out if they don't bring in these new cars? Like, who's going to buy a new LMP2? Like, is that something that's going to happen? Like.
And the cost point too, that's gonna be a big thing, considering too that you have hypercar and LMDH sitting right there as well. Sure, it costs millions of dollars to run those teams, but you know, how much of that is going to be easier for current LMP2 teams to jump into if they want to, versus, you know, going back into LMP2, going into that Pro-Am thing. And again, we're looking at hypercars potentially still having having their own semi pro am thing. If we do have a lot of people that are jumping up with some am drivers in them for pay drivers, I wouldn't be surprised if WC wants to do something like a pro am category for hypercar either. So it just seems like right now anything is open
Except the
for
next
use.
LMP2 regs, apparently.
Except for the new, yeah, exactly. And again, it doesn't make sense, and that's why it's just like I would have loved to get an update, and the fact that we've got radio silence is just confusing even more. So yeah, I just don't know what to expect with that, and I'm with you. I'm almost thinking that they might never be released, or that like the LMP2 chassis designated here will just never race, and the manufacturers are free to make a new LMP2 updated chassis that can't be used by hypercar teams that can only be used in LMP2. Because I don't know. I mean,
Yeah.
it seems weird to release a car that has been out technically for 3 years, 4 years potentially at that point.
Yeah. Like,
like it's weird. I don't think I've ever heard of that before, where you just have a race car that's being used for other race cars, but it can't race itself, even though it's designed to race at the category that it's supposed to be replacing anyway. Yeah,
it's just odd.
very
It's just
confusing.
really, really odd. Okay, we've got 9 minutes left. I want some predictions from you guys. Firstly, Hypercar. Who wins Le Mans? Who wins the Centenary? Whose cuisine reigns supreme?
Toyota.
Toyota? Even though Ferrari have beaten them at every session so far.
You can't beat reliability because Toyota. Let's take a look at it, Flood. At Portimao, the only thing that went wrong wasn't even Toyota's fault. And it's just overall the season. I mean, Porsche, from what I understand, they're kind of hard on their tires. Ferrari, they can make mistakes. Although Ferrari has improved, they definitely have improved. I believe Portimao had some overheating issues or something along those lines, but Spa was, apart from some cold tire incidents, they were fine. So it's definitely Ferrari's definitely going to push them, but I think Toyota, being the kings of reliability, I think that they'll have the upper edge.
Cookie?
Yeah, I mean it's tough. I definitely before watching the hyperpole, when I saw the qualifying results, I definitely was thinking like, oh god, like Ferrari's definitely better. Watching hyperpole, the gap is clearly not as big as it is, and Toyota have proven time and time again how quick they are mid stint, and end of stint. Just their times throughout their stints have been so reliable. So unless Ferrari build up a gap and have the luxury of giving up some time for issues or just for lack of pace sometimes, they've got a shot. But I just do think that it's still Toyota right now, and Toyota's is the team to beat. So I'll still go with my predictions. What was it, 7-8 and then 51, I think. So I'll stick with that.
Okay. How far does Peugeot get? Does Peugeot get to Nightfall? Do they get out of Nightfall, or do they become Nightfall?
I think one completes the race.
Just one?
I don't know. Yeah. I'll say one gets stuck out in track and can't get back. But then I think the other one finishes. I don't think it finishes anywhere near the front, but I think they do take away something. I think it's like barely enough, but I think they do walk away with something from this race.
Kris?
I'll go against the grain with Cookie. I think we're gonna get 2 man moments. I think both of them don't finish.
So they're gonna go faster on the flatbed than they do in the race.
Oh. Way to put it.
Van Wall. Does Van Wall survive?
No.
Unless they got.
That's a no, Kris. That's a no. That's a no.
Well, because Sebring, like what? They only had that thing where they spun around and they completed the race. Did they complete their race at Spa as well?
They were the last classified finisher at Sebring after spending a lot of time repairing something in the pits, and I honestly can't remember if they completed Spa. Like I
pretty sure they did.
I couldn't tell you. I so don't care.
Oh, jeez. They had that break.
No. They crashed. They crashed. They crashed on cold tires. Remember? They crashed on cold tires coming out of the pits, like Ferrari did.
Oh, did they?
Yeah.
Wow.
LMP2.
Well, they had one break at Portimao. Otherwise, they've had crashes. and
Apparently that was also Villeneuve's fault. Apparently he uh did something stupid with the car which caused the brakes to overheat, and so it was actually all just entirely his fault. Anyway, the other team, LMP2, who wins LMP2? Whose Orica is the most Orica-y Orica?
WRT.
Wort. Cookie?
oh man,
Keep it quick, snappy.
I'll Fittipaldi.
Fittipaldi? Jota?
Yeah.
So just like the last 2 years then, it's just going to be Jota versus WRT.
Yep. Maybe you could throw United in there, maybe, but I'm going with Jota.
I mean, they're the big three, right? It's United, Jota, and WRT. They're the only teams that win anything anymore.
That's correct.
What about Pro-Am? Who's going to win Pro-Am?
An LMP2.
Wow. I love how committed you are to your.
I actually don't have a spotter guide in front of me, and I did not memorize the field this year. So
didn't you listen to our LMP2 preview podcast, Cookie? You had such a long drive.
I did, but I had other people, or I had other things going on that deleted that space in my memory blocks. So
disappoint.
So no comment from me, sir.
Kris.
Pro-Am,
LMP2 Pro-Am.
He's off racing in Japan with Super Formula, but in honor of Sembo, I'm gonna choose Racing Team Turkey.
I mean, yeah, that's fair. They won the last race out at that track that in the ELMS in Barcelona. GTM, who's gonna beat Ben Keating? Besides Ben Keating, can anyone beat Ben Keating, or can only Ben Keating beat Ben Keating?
Yeah, that's the last one.
Only Ben Keating can beat Ben Keating.
Correct. Yes.
Okay, that's fair enough.
As he clears his throat and puts on a cowboy hat.
Hell yeah. Kris, Ben Keating?
Cookie already chose Ben Keating, so I'll say it'll probably, if I had to guess, I'm gonna go with, I believe it's the 21 car that has Rivera in it, correct?
The 21 car, that has Ulissi Dapoa and Julian Piguet and Simon Mann. You're thinking of the
83 is 83?
Yes, Paris Companc, Alessio Rivera, Lilo Wadu.
I think I'll go with that one.
Nice. That's probably a good shout. They're the two teams that have been the most competitive this season so far. What about NASCAR? Does the NASCAR win the NASCAR?
Yes. It's already won the NASCAR, so anything else is bonus. But no, they definitely finished the race.
They definitely finished?
Yep.
Yep.
I hope so. And as a meme, instead of the communist podium, I want them to clear some section in the pit lane, have an actual victory lane. Sponsored by Sunoco, of course, Fielding Victories.
I hate that I do this podcast with two Americans. Okay. On that note, we are 2 minutes away from the live stream starting for the Centenary event of the 24 Hours of Le Mans. I just want to say thank you everyone so much for listening and for following along with Endurance Chat and with this community for so long. It's been an absolute pleasure for us to be a part of everyone's Le Mans experience. It means a lot to me that everyone jumps on and uses the resources that we make and listens to the podcast that we put together and interacts in the threads in the Discord. It's such a cool part of my year every year to be able to facilitate this great event for so many people. If you have not done so already, make sure you get your Mateusz Groziak Spotters Guide on spotters.guide. That has all the information you need about all the cars, very pretty pictures, information dense, all the driver ratings as well, so you'll never miss anything that happens with the cars. You'll have all the information in front of you. Make sure you get on that because Mateusz is going to do some awesome things in the future with this Spotters Guide. Make sure you get your live timing up on live.fiawec.com or whatever the link is. It's in the Reddit thread. Make sure you're jumping onto the scratch pad, even though we've modified it so that way people can actually use it this year. Make sure you've got in front of you your track map with your slow zones and your marshal posts so you know what's happening there. Make sure you're logging into FIAWEC.Alcamel systems so that way you're keeping on top of the timing boards and the notice boards so that way if anything happens you can see what's happening. Make sure that you take this opportunity before the stream starts to have a piss and get some food because you won't be able to for the next 24 hours. But most of all, make sure you enjoy the next 25 hours of broadcast and racing. On that note,
It's going to be incredible. It's
And-
just genuinely going to be incredible. So
And I'm contractually obligated by the deep state to say if you don't want to watch boring pre-race, Porsche Career Cup Deutschland starts right now.
I hate you, Chris. Hate you so much.
sponsored by Credit One Bank.
On that note, I've been Floodman11 / Michael Salavari. This has been a shit show. Enjoy the Centenary event of the 24 Hours of Le Mans. Peace out!
Centenary goes. Ooh.
Hey!
Oh fuck.
All right. Voice chat split commence. Autobots, roll out.